Well guys, today we're going to be reviewing three of the most popular cartridges around, especially for predator hunters. They are the 22-250, the 223 Remington, and the 204 Ruger. Now if you're not sure which one of these is the best one for your selection, here's what you want to remember. The long-standing conventional wisdom about these three cartridges is this. Number one, the faster and lighter bullets tend to be very explosive when they hit, but they don't always penetrate very deeply. It's more of a surface explosion, if you will. Point number two is you begin to select bullets that are a bit slower moving and have more weight to them. You'll discover that their explosive nature begins to change from a violent surface explosion upon impact to more of a deeper penetrating controlled explosion. So we will begin by taking a quick look at each of these cartridges' energy numbers, and then we'll do some shooting to see if their real-world performance matches up with what we would expect to see based upon the data. I hope you'll have as much fun watching the video as I had making it, and if so, please remember to hit the like button and do subscribe if you have not yet done so. I'll be looking forward to your comments as well, and I hope that you'll tell me what you'd like to see in future videos. Thanks again. Alright, we'll be looking at these cartridges for a second here. We'll start with the 204 Ruger. We're going to start with the faster, lighter bullets and then work our way left to right and go into the bullets that are slightly slower and somewhat heavier. So on your 32 grain 204 Ruger, you'll notice that it has about 4225 feet per second at the muzzle, and it's got nearly 1,300 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. But when it gets out there to 100 yards, you're dealing with about 3650 neighborhood worth of feet per second and about 944 foot-pounds of energy. When you move into your 204 Ruger 40 grain VMAX, it starts off a little slower, 3,900 feet per second. When it gets out there to 100 yards, you're looking at about 3,482 feet per second and nearly 1,100 foot-pounds of energy. Let's move this spreadsheet over a little bit. Your 22-250 Remington, you'll notice a little heavier bullet, 55 grain is what we'll be kind of looking at today. At 100 yards, it's got about 3,250 feet per second, 1,292 foot-pounds of energy. And then when we move into the 223 55 grain, we're going to be testing out the Hornady Varmint Express 55 grain VMAX. Now it probably does have 3240 feet per second at the muzzle, but that's if you're using a 24-inch bolt-action rifle. The rifle that we're using is going to be a 16-inch carbine, so our starting figures are probably going to be closer to 3,040 feet per second. So when that bullet arrives at 100 yards, you'll be looking at about 872 foot-pounds of energy with a speed that's just shy of 2,700 feet per second. Now in terms of what kind of percentage of change is this, if you'll take a look at your 204 Ruger 40 grain, it's about 4.5% slower than the 32 grain 204 Ruger at 100 yards, but it is 25% heavier. Your 22-250 is almost 11% slower than the 32 grain 204 Ruger, but it's 72% heavier. And then when we move all the way over to your 223 out of a carbine, you're almost 27% slower than that 204 Ruger 32 grain at 100 yards, and you are still 72% heavier. Shooting these water jugs on the far left at a distance of 100 yards, 204 Ruger 32 grain shooting the Hornady Superformance. Okay, what you're looking at is the water jug that was hit with the 204 Ruger 32 grain VMAX hit at 100 yards. It really blew it up pretty good, but you'll notice that there was pretty much no damage done to the water jug right behind it. There was just a tiny small hole that happened right behind it. That might have just happened from a pressure wave, or maybe a small piece of bullet fragment that made it through. Getting ready to shoot at the water jugs that are on the left with the 204 Ruger. We're going to be shooting the 40 grain Hornady Superformance. The distance is 100 yards. Okay, I'm walking up here to the water jug that got hit with the 40 grain VMAX 204 Ruger. You'll notice that it got pretty well shredded there, but I'd like for you to look at the two water jugs that were right behind. Notice that those are pretty much filled with water still. Really no damage to those to speak of. There may have been a small leak of water in one of those, but might have just been from a pressure wave going through there and not necessarily a bullet fragment going through there at all. All right, we're going to shoot these water jugs that are at 100 yards. We're going to shoot them with a 223. I'll be using the Hornady Varmint Express 55 grain VMAX. Okay, I'm walking up here to the three water jugs on the right that were just hit with the 55 grain VMAX. You'll notice that the first water jug pretty well got shredded also, but water jugs 2 and 3 that were right behind it, not really much happened to them with the exception of the one that was directly behind it. It looked like some piece of bullet, maybe some amount of shrapnel did get through there and damaged it a little bit. And in the third water jug back there, you'll see maybe just a tiny piece of shrapnel glazed that one as well. And as far as where I hit this water jug, the very first one that I hit it pretty close to dead center. I hit it a little bit high, but pretty close to dead center, as you'll see.